We're going to give everybody a few seconds just to settle in. We'll get started in just a moment. Awesome. All right, let's get started. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in again to Velodyne Lidar's digital learning series, Automation and Safety During COVID-19. I'm Pamela Gauchi, your host for the next 40 minutes or so, and joining me is my co-host, Mary, who's running slides in the background. Now, today we'll be talking to Arjun Narang, co-founder and CTO of Gatik, a company that just a year ago came out of stealth mode. A little bit of housekeeping before we begin. Let's take a quick look at our agenda so you know what to expect today. We'll start off with a brief overview on Velodyne and our Alpha Prime LiDAR sensor. After that overview, we'll move right into our interview with Arjun for 20 or 30 minutes, and I'll save the last few minutes for audience Q&A, so use that Q&A button at the bottom of your screen to ask questions anytime during the episode. And as always, we are recording today's episode, which will be available to watch on Velodyne Lidar's YouTube channel. So let's begin. Here you see just a few examples of Velodyne Lidar's suite of LiDAR sensors. Our product portfolio provides real-time perception data that enables autonomous driving and advanced safety. Now we're gonna focus for a couple of minutes on Velodyne's Alpha Prime, one of our surround view sensors designed specifically for autonomous mobility. In other words, designed for vehicles on the road. Velodyne's Alpha Prime delivers an impressive combination of performance specifications for the autonomous mobility industry in a single sensor. It offers a long range of up to 245 meters, and that's with a 360-degree horizontal field of view and a 40-degree vertical field of view. The Alpha Prime has 128 channels, and it's capable of generating 4.8 million points per second in dual return mode. The resolution on this sensor is pretty incredible. And now let's take a look at a point cloud generated by our Alpha Prime on a drive through San Francisco. The density of that point cloud is so intense that pseudo image recognition is made possible with only the LiDAR sensor and no camera. Alpha Prime also offers superior and precise long-range detection of low reflectance objects. And that means things like tire fragments, asphalt, and pedestrians can be identified at long range. The Alpha Prime also generates high quality perception in a wide variety of light conditions, advanced sensor-to-sensor interference mitigation, power efficiency, and thermal performance. The Alpha Prime is, simply put, one of the world's most advanced sensors. And here you see the Alpha Prime integrated into one of Gatik's deployed autonomous vehicles being used by their partner, Walmart. There are also a number of Velodyne puck sensors on that vehicle, which we'll highlight here for you, and we'll let Arjun tell us more about that vehicle during our interview. So now I'd like to introduce Arjun Narang, co-founder and CTO of Gatik. Welcome, Arjun.
Hi, Pam. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thanks for spending your morning with us here. I'll just get started. I'll dive right into questions. Gatik came out of stealth mode almost exactly a year ago with $4.5 million in seed funding and an announcement about your Walmart partnership. You started the company in 2017 along with two other people, one of them being your brother. So can you tell us first how Gatik got started and then a little bit about what Gatik does?
Yes, absolutely. So when we started Gatik in 2017, we met with and we looked at a lot of retailers, 3PLs, all the companies in the logistics space to understand the pain points, that these companies had. And basically there was a lot of, for companies and retailers like, Walmart, and with the e-commerce booming, they had this, the rising customer, the changing customer expectations to meet the rising demand of online orders. There was a huge pain point and there was a huge gap in the market. So if you look, and we looked at the whole delivery landscape very closely. On one end, we had, self-driving trucks, which are basically from long-haul logistics and mainly restricted to highway driving. The technology is very, very different. On the other end, we had these, these sidewalk robots or neuro-sized vehicles, basically. and they are restricted by the payload, obviously, and the range that they can go up to. So there was a huge gap in the middle mile that nobody was addressing. So that's where we saw this opportunity, and that's how we started Gatik.
Great, great. So I've heard it said by Gatik that you're solving the middle mile problem, not really the autonomy problem. Can you talk about how that difference in mindset affects your business and your timeline versus some other companies?
Absolutely. So what we are doing is, so a lot of companies in the AV space, what they are doing is, they are solving AV problem for a geofenced area. So what we are doing is, because we are B2B focused, we are moving goods between nodes. Basically, we have a fixed starting node. We have a fixed drop off, location. We are moving goods, repeated goods. Basically, we are doing repeated deliveries on same routes, and we are traveling on these routes again and again, repeated times of the day. So our ODD, or our operational design domain, is very restrictive or very constrained. So what we are doing is, essentially, we are structuring this autonomy problem. We are not solving for a geofenced autonomy problem. We are solving for a fixed route, a problem, basically. So this is very different from. So this is not basically general autonomy. We can do a lot of route instrumentation. We can overfit our models to work perfectly on these routes. We can do a lot of route instrumentation as well. So this is basically, this is not a, we're not solving a general autonomy problem. We are solving these problems for our retailers, basically, in obviously targeting and making sure that they're able to meet the growing needs that has happened. Yeah.
Great. And so before I continue, Arjun, I'm curious to ask, as someone with two older sisters, is running a company with your brother easier or more challenging because it's your brother?
I would say it has been easier for us. Gautam and I, we started robotics when we were in high school. We have built projects. We have done a lot of robotics projects together. We have exchanged our assignments. When we were in school, we have worked at common places, CMU being one. We have worked at Waseda University, obviously, at different times of of our lives. We started with, legged robots, mainly bipeds, moved on to multi-legged robots, then mobile robots, and finally AVs. So we have worked together, all through our life. On different projects, different companies, and it has been an amazing experience. Obviously working with Gautam, we have some of differences, but at the end of the day, either he's able to convince me or I'm able to convince him, when we are able to move together.
And as a young company in the AV space, you've been able to generate revenue so early on. Can you talk about how you've been able to achieve that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So basically, I think we started generating revenue when we were very young, and we were obviously, we were looking for strong partners and partners like, for example, Walmart. They knew exactly what they wanted. It was and we helped them with, we were involved in all the aspects of deployment, pushing the AV legislature in Arkansas, for example, and automating their sophisticated hub and spoke model, which, again, like Walmart being, they have been at the, the frontier, or they have been at the forefront of, adopting new innovative technologies, meeting the growing customer needs. So there was a very strong alignment with Walmart, basically, and with others. So we have multiple deployments, Walmart being one of our customers, and there was from the beginning, we had very strong alignments, and they knew exactly what they wanted. So it was a perfect match.
And so while we're here right now talking, and even with the pandemic going on and the lockdowns, can you tell us, where are some of your deployed vehicles right now, and what are they doing?
Absolutely. So basically, we have our vehicles running, 7 days a week. These are we operate these vehicles around 10 to 12 hours a day. We have multiple deployments. As I said, we have deployed for, multiple Fortune 500 companies, Walmart being one, which we have publicly shared. There are some other companies that we are working with, some of the big retailers in the space. We have deployed in Canada as well. So we are working with one of the biggest retailers in Canada since last year. We haven't officially announced that, that partnership. Will be doing it with some other important announcements in the coming few months, basically. So yeah, so we are expanding to other sites as well. So we have multiple customers that we haven't announced, and we'll be doing it, all these announcements at the right time.
Great. And we look forward to hearing more about that. And how have your business operations or strategy changed since the pandemic and the subsequent lockdown, if at all?
So basically, in terms of, the number of orders, so we have seen an increase of around 30 to 35% increase in number of orders due to this, COVID situation, obviously, because everyone is like, because of, how it is, everyone has been ordering, putting in more online orders. So there has been an increased demand. The customer behavior, it has changed. So in general, it has, affected AV space, or companies in the AV logistics space positively, I would say, because of this, the increased, movement of goods. So it had a positive impact on Gatik. In terms of testing, initially, obviously when we were trying to learn about COVID, so there was a few setbacks, obviously, but we were able to ramp up or get back to normal testing in a very short time, and obviously taking. Sorry, yeah, and obviously taking the right precautions advised by CDC, and the other health agencies.
And do you think there'll be permanent changes to the industry due to the pandemic?
There is, and yes, for sure, because of everyone now, retailers, or they have started this whole, the expectations from the consumers have changed. Everyone is expecting contactless deliveries. There has been a reduction in human to human interaction, so AVs are going to play a huge role in that, and to meet up with the growing demands, and to meet up with this changed operations, or the changed demands. Everyone, all the retailers, they're trying to cope up with that, and they're trying to make changes to their operations, basically. So in general, yes, everyone is they're gearing up for the long run, and obviously, because something like this can happen again, so everyone is like, they'll be prepared for this. And in general, AV is definitely a good solution to tackle this problem.
Now, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation formed an initiative called Planet M, which essentially seeks to bring together Michigan's mobility ecosystem. And when the pandemic began, Planet M decided to focus some grants solely on COVID-19 response. And Gatik was selected as a grant recipient in May. Can you tell us anything about the COVID-19 response work you're currently doing in Michigan through Planet M?
Yes, I can share some of the information. So yeah, so we'll be working with one of the biggest retailers in the state to automate their on-road, transportation network. So these deployments will be in areas like Grand Rapids or Rochester in Michigan, and obviously we'll be deploying our B2B, automated B2B trucks for this kind of solution. There's not a whole lot of information that I can share at this time. Obviously, being a little more deliberately being a little confidential on this end. But yeah, so some exciting news to come later on this year.
Yeah, I know you're not able to tell us who that retailer is, but we do look forward to hearing who that is. And one retailer you've mentioned already and who you have been able to speak about publicly is Walmart. And I wanted to ask a few questions about that specifically, but before we dive into that, I think this is a good spot to show a short video Arjun brought with him today. So let's take a look at that video. So Arjun, can you tell us, you talked a little bit about this earlier, why was Walmart looking to partner with you?
So with Walmart, so from the first meeting to signing of agreement, it happened very quickly. Again, Walmart, as I said, being at the forefront of, innovation or providing innovative solutions for their customers. It was like Walmart basically knew what they wanted. There was this, they wanted a B2B solution to move goods between, their dark store to, neighboring, neighboring stores, basically, managing, again, the online orders, online pickup orders. So it was like, they needed they needed a solution to optimize their hub and spoke operations, and Gatik was a perfect solution for that. Again, so for us, because we are targeting a very niche market, a niche market, but a very big market, moving goods from warehouses to, between warehouses, or from micro fulfillment centers to neighboring stores, or between micro fulfillment centers. Yeah. So that's a segment that, Gatik is targeting. It was a very unique fit, a perfect fit with Walmart.
And how long was the process to deployment once you partnered with them?
So it was pretty quick. So again, obviously, we helped Walmart in every front, making sure we have, the right AV legislature in Arkansas, set up before we deploy. So it was pretty quick, and we were able to, put our vehicles on the road for Walmart very, very quickly.
Cool. And so you mentioned already those vehicles are running 7 days a week, 10 to 12 hours a day. What types of metrics do you use to measure progress and capabilities with that type of deployment?
Yes, so I think every AV company in the space, they have different tracking, different metrics to track the performance of the AVs. For us, we have a very sophisticated internal tracking metric to judge the performance of our AV systems. Again, we track, obviously, number of autonomous miles driven, number of deliveries made, percentage of on-time deliveries, for our customers, and obviously miles per disengagement, all of that. A days, we go without intervention. So there's some very sophisticated internal metrics that we track, sharing just very high level, detail here.
Yeah. So and Gatik is developing a level 4 self-driving full stack solution. Can you tell everyone briefly what that means, and then talk a little bit about the different types of hardware and software you develop or use?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So as I said, so what we are doing is very different from, what other companies in the AV space are doing. So, what we are targeting, autonomy in a very structured way. Our ODDs, these are fixed routes that we are operating our vehicles on. So we are using, the kind of sensor that we have, we are using the full sensor suite on these vehicles. Again, we believe that, obviously there are some solutions, out there, or there are some companies who have been advocating using just cameras or cameras plus radar systems, for a fully autonomous, solution. We believe that, it's again, having LiDARs, it's very important. So that's why we have the full sensor suite. We want to provide, a complete coverage around the vehicle, making sure we have redundancy in sensor coverage, and redundancy in hardware and software, basically. So it's very important for us to provide a complete, or to put a completely safe system out on the road.
Yeah, and you're retrofitting existing vehicles, correct?
Yes, we are. So we are using Ford, transit platforms. We are, and the sensors are off the shelf. Obviously, Velodyne being one of the partners. Yes.
Yeah. And so, because we're Velodyne, I have to ask, so each of your vehicles is equipped with a number of Velodyne's LiDAR sensors. How important is LiDAR and other sensor technology to your product offering? And how do you see the growth of the LiDAR market affecting your business or strategy in the coming years?
So LiDARs, again, are very important. If you're talking about, providing perception, or a perception which is accurate, and which can enable detection and identification of objects up to range of distances. So it's very important. And again, as I said, there have been arguments, using LiDARs versus not using LiDARs. So I think there's a clear answer there. Obviously, we need to use LiDARs. Cameras have different, fail cases, lidars being, lidars having different fail cases. So it's important to have lidars. Again, in terms of like, we use, VLS 128 lidar, like, the Alpha Prime on our vehicles. Then we have bunch of VLP 16 lidars as well. In general, there have been a few companies in the lidar space who are, now providing ultra resolution, or ultra resolution lidars, basically, which is like, it's good. Obviously, we want that, and it has been helpful for the AV industry.
What are some of the most critical specs that you're looking at for lidar technology?
That's a good question. So like, obviously range, you want to get the maximum range from these lidars. Obviously, if you're able to see incoming traffic at high speeds, up to for distances up to, more than 150, 200 meters, absolutely you want that. So resolution and range become very important. And then, beam configuration and beam distribution, again, like, you want to you want to pay some importance to that as well. And in terms of like, what's the field of view of these lidars? Some lidars, they are sensitive, or like, you want to have lidars who are sensitive to, to detect low reflectivity objects up to like, long ranges. So all these things matter when you are looking for a lidar technology or selecting a lidar. Again, like, obviously you want to have as low of a cost as possible for these lidars. Again, like, cost being an important dictating factor when you are, when you're choosing a lidar. Yeah.
Sure. And so in terms of your routes, can you talk a little bit about how complex those routes can be? And you touched on it earlier. Can you share the benefits of operating on fixed predetermined routes?
Absolutely. So, so when we are operating these, again, like, because we are operating on fixed routes, we can do a lot of, so we can restrict ourselves to just, for example, just taking right turns. Most famously, UPS, their trucks, they used to they take right turns mainly for fuel efficiency, to save time and all of that. So we can, because we are moving goods on fixed routes, we can have like, these routes are known, before, we have all this information prior to running on these routes. So we can, maybe we can restrict our vehicles just on the right lanes, basically. So we don't have to worry about some of the common, or like, some of the very important problems in AVs, which everyone is trying to solve. For example, like, unprotected left turns. These are very, very challenging for AVs. So we can restrict our vehicles to just right lanes, taking only right turns. So we can do a lot of these things when we are moving goods between fixed nodes. When you have passengers on board, obviously that becomes a different problem, different challenge.
So, and as Gatik continues to grow and you acquire new customers, what do you believe will be the largest hurdle that you'll face as a business in scaling middle mile?
Okay, so when we started Gatik, like, the whole emphasis was to provide autonomy at scale. So that was the whole purpose we started Gatik. And obviously we did it with, the proper customer validation. So again, like, we have the right, or like, we have the right partners as of now. Obviously, as we are growing as a team, as we are scaling operations, we want to select, or we want to have the right partnerships in place. I think that becomes really, really, really important, especially when we are talking about providing autonomy at scale. So I think partnerships, I think they're going to play a major role for us, and as we grow as a team.
And how do you view the current and future competitive landscape in your niche market? Do you see yourself as the leader of the pack, or are there other players that are already vying for that market share? Yes.
So interestingly, there has been a lot of development in the logistics space, or like, the autonomous vehicle logistics space. I think there has been like recently, like, there has been, Zoox has been in news. Zoox got acquired by Amazon. So Amazon, they played a very crucial role in, in the last decade, basically, in warehouse automation. So that was the decade of warehouse automation. Now is the decade for autonomous vehicles, basically. So Walmart acquiring Zoox, I think it's a good sign for AVs in general. Amazon acquiring Zoox is a good sign for AVs in general, and Amazon's investment in Aurora as well. So these are like all positive signs for the the AV industry, or the AV delivery industry. And I think definitely, us being in this big niche market, we are definitely, leaders, because the way we are, the way the segment that we are targeting is much different than, what other companies in this space are doing. Companies are, the logistics companies, they're targeting B2C, deliveries. Again, like, for them, it makes sense maybe. For us, it's because, we want to be very targeted, we want to be very focused, we want to get these vehicles on road quickly, we want to commercialize autonomy faster. I think, and that this is the right approach to do that.
And so I have a couple of questions left before I move to audience Q&A. And my final question is twofold. What are Gatik's priorities in the next few years, and how do you see the technology you're developing as redefining the future of transportation?
Absolutely. So basically, like, because of the growing, e-commerce, the booming e-commerce, all the retailers, they're moving closer to the customer. The whole push is, building micro fulfillment centers closer to the customers. So because of that there's an explosion in, the number of deliveries, the volume of, routes basically. So for that, to tackle that, Gatik is going to play an important role. The solution that we are providing, it's going to be very important. Sorry, what was the other question? Right?
What are Gatik's priorities in the next few years, and then how do you see the technology
Absolutely.
redefining the future?
So we have we have maintained very important, customer relationship, and we want to do that as we go forward. Again, like, bringing in the right customers or bringing in the right partners, it's very crucial to what we are doing. Again, like, we have been very selective about, the kind of funds that we bring in or the kind of partnerships we have. We've been very deliberate about these things. Again, like, working with Walmart was a deliberate decision. Some of the other customers that we are working with, all these decisions are very deliberate, and there's the, like, very hard thought, decisions basically. So we want to maintain that as we grow. We want to have, like, we want to build strong partnerships as we are scaling.
Great. All right. Thanks, Arjun. Now we'll move to some audience Q&A. We have quite a few questions. The first one, I understand that your focus is on structured or known routes. However, I believe the traffic or objects in these routes are not fixed. How are you able to overcome those complexities in the regular operations?
So when we are operating on these, known routes, we are able to eliminate the structured edge cases altogether. So a lot of and edge cases are basically what's preventing, autonomous vehicles to be deployed at scale. So we're able to eliminate a lot of these structured edge cases, and obviously the way, our autonomy stack is built, it's very unique. If you look at our autonomy stack, it's a combination of DNNs. These are not monolithic, large monolithic DNNs. These are like, like smaller DNNs, which are like targeted specifically to, a specific, driving task basically. And again, like, a stack is a combination of DNNs and decision trees. So we have these, DNNs, and we have a validation check using some conventional robotics approach or some rule-based approach basically. So the way we are targeting autonomy, it's very different. It's very unique, and it's like much more safer. And obviously our fixed route use case, it helps a lot.
And so I have a few questions about safety drivers. People asking, when will fully unattended operation be realized, and what is the challenge with getting to that point?
Okay, that's very important. Obviously, every autonomous company, they are trying to go unmanned. We have set timelines and deadlines for targeting unmanned operations, and it's in the pipeline. Unfortunately, I won't be able to share that publicly, but yes, it's on the cards.
Great. And I know you can't talk too much about it, but I do have a couple of questions about your current plans in Canada and why Canada.
So Canada has been a huge part of our. It was a big strategic decision. There is, first of all, like, there is a huge talent pool there. Again, like, University of Toronto, University of Waterloo, deep learning started in Canada. So it has been a huge part of that. There has been, with US, there has been some issues with immigration and everything. We wanted to have an office in Canada to tap into the local talent, as well as to have presence in Canada, because again, like, because of the customer that we're working with, it's, this customer, it's one of the, biggest retailer in Canada. So we wanted to have, a big team there, or like, a proper team in Canada. So this is not so Canada is not a satellite office basically for us. It's, we want to have, or we are doing some hardcore research in Canada. So it has been like, and because of now, like, even with the changing H-1B immigration rules, I think Canada has helped us, like, because it has helped us in that sense as well. So it has been like, pretty good.
Great. And how many vehicles do you currently have deployed?
Mm-hmm. So we have more than 10 vehicles deployed at the moment. Obviously, this is not counting the R&D platform or the, the platforms we research for testing and, internal research.
And has your testing been impacted during the pandemic?
Yes, it was. I mean, testing initially it was affected slightly. Obviously, when we were trying to cope up with the right procedures, setting up the right procedures for testing, making sure we are maintaining that we are complying with the CDC guidelines, making sure we are using PPE equipment. We are doing the high touch points, the high touch areas. We are regularly cleaning them. So yes, obviously it was a learning curve, and we were able to adjust quickly. I won't say it has affected our testing a lot. Yeah, initially it did, but in general, it has been it has been good.
A couple more questions. We have a few more minutes. What are some of the factors that make a market ideal for deployment with your vehicles?
Mm-hmm. So as I said, like, so our use case, we are moving goods between fixed points or known routes. So any and these are like any structured environment, or like any move or any route where the starting position and the drop off location is fixed, or we have like hub and spoke operations, or we have fixed, let's say in a single route we have fixed drop off locations. I think that's good for us. Again, like what we are doing is we are making sure with B2B deliveries, we're making sure there is a store associate at the at the loading zone, at the drop off zone there is a store associate who is doing the loading and unloading. So making sure we have that, we're not changing the customer behavior a lot. Again, like if you have a B2C deployment, again, like who like are the in that case will the customer be willing to walk out of his or her house and to do the pickup basically. So all that sense that and we again, like when we were deploying these vehicles for customers, obviously there was some pushback from from the the store associates employees, and obviously together we were able to work it out, and we were able to solve that solution, get to a solution.
Great. So I have a question here asking, you maintain your vehicles and handle things like insurance and liability, and how complex is that?
So what we are doing is basically we are providing autonomy as a service to our customers. That means we provide, we operate, we maintain all our AVs for our customers on their behalf, and obviously we are working with the right legal authorities or the right legislative government at the state level. So we are making sure we are able to do that. So yeah, so we provide the complete solution autonomy as a service.
So I have a question about your plans for possible expansion into Asia and Europe.
Okay, I think so. Basically, with our previous startup, yes, we did have a lot of business in Asia. We were targeting Asian market. Maybe I would say like it's on the cards. Maybe yes, in the coming future, yes. We are very familiar with the Asian market. We have done business there, especially in Singapore, Japan, with a previous startup. So we have a lot of experience there, and I think yeah, it's an exciting market. So yeah, we'll be open to that, but maybe like keeping our heads down, being focused on the problems that we have at hand or the deployments that we have, because again, like there's a huge demand here. There has been a huge interest in Gatik, funding wise, customer wise. So we want to make sure that we are exploiting, or we are able to exploit all of this first, and yeah, maybe that'll be on the cards. Yeah.
Great. So Arjun, I have time for one more question from the audience. I have somebody asking about what the process is with the technology for creating a new route. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So for us, because again, like, the kind of solution that we are building, for us, spinning up new routes is it's very easy, takes very less times. So in, like, let's say in 4 to 6 weeks, we are able to spin up new routes. Again, like, because of the way we are targeting, autonomy, the way, our autonomy stack is built. So we are able to, spin up new routes very quickly. So yeah, so I think it's fairly easy for us. Obviously, with some kind of, we want to we do structured testing in simulation, then a closed circuit area, followed by obviously deployments on public roads. So yeah, so we have a proper procedure to to deploy these vehicles, and it's fairly easy for us to spin up new routes.
Great, great. So thanks so much, Arjun. We're unfortunately out of time. If we didn't get to your question, no problem, because you have our contact information right there on your screen. So you can reach out to us directly with any questions about Gatik and the middle mile, or Velodyne Lidar and our Lidar sensors. Again, this webinar recording will be available to view on Velodyne's YouTube channel. I want to thank Arjun again. Thank you so much for spending your morning with us, Arjun. And thank you to the audience as well. If you're interested in learning more about automation and safety during COVID-19, join us for our next episode on Friday, July 24th, when we'll be speaking with Bobby Hambrick, founder and CEO at Autonomous Stuff, and John Busek, VP of Products and Services, also at Autonomous Stuff. Thanks so much.
Thank you.